So here we have the topic aphasia, and in aphasia we are going to know a few points with some important concept of how aphasia occurs, which pathways are involved, and which areas are critically more important. And so we are going to start here. Aphasia means the inability to express or the inability to understand the written or spoken speech despite of normal motor function or no motor deficit and absence of any mental confusion. So that means there is no mental confusion, no motor deficit, but unable to understand or express the written or spoken speech. So I have made the two pathways, and here I just wanted to differentiate between the two pathways so that we will be able to understand the pathways involving the written speech and pathways involving the spoken speech. So but both of them have the main efferent limb, that is the Broca's area, and the afferent part comes to the vernix area. So in case of the written speech, the visual pathway comes from the retina, optic nerve, optic tract to the lateral geniculate nucleus, and then from there it reaches to the primary visual cortex, area 17, whose main function is perception of the visual impulse. And when the visual impulse's perception occurs, then it passes to the that impulse to the visual association area 18-19, and there occurs the identification of that written speech based on past experience, if any. After that, that impulse passes to the gerine area or the angular gyrus, and this area is typically very much important because it stores images and it creates idea and thoughts, and it is the visual speech center. Why visual speech center? Because the visual input come here and they help in relating and interpreting the meaning of that visual speech, means the written form of speech. And any kind of abnormality in this angular gyrus leads to these various effects, like dysgraphia, where the person can't write properly. He writes B like this, he writes C like this. In dyslexia, the person can't be able to pronounce properly any number if shown. If shown 3, he will show 8, like that. In acalculia, when we will ask him to calculate or when we have asked to count the number, then he will count in a different manner, suddenly starting saying from 9 to 3, like that. In finger agnosia, there will be right and left confusion. In alexia may happen, even he can't write, as I told that it is a visual speech center and it is unable to send that impulse from the visual area to the Wernicke's area, and so he will not be able to read it properly and can't be able to interpret it properly. And when it reaches the Wernicke's area 22, Brodmann's area, also known as the auditory speech area or the sensory speech center, this area helps in the comprehension, that is understanding of the written spoken speech. And as a result, this area then passes through the arcuate fasciculus to the Broca's. I will come to later on then what happens. Then here we have the auditory pathway involved in the spoken speech pathway, where we have from the, it starts from the 8th nerve, caudate nucleus, olivary complex, then the inferior colliculi, and then it comes to the medial geniculate body, and then it goes to the primary auditory area 41-42, and their role is same as perceives sound. Here perceives as here primary visual cortex perceives the visual impulse, like that. Similarly, here recognition is speech and auditory association area, and then it passes to the Wernicke's area. After that, we have this, the arcuate fasciculus. This fasciculus has an important role in conduction, and as it connects both the area, so the more there will be ability of this area to conduct the impulse between the Wernicke's and the Broca's area, there will be more chances of good repetition. The Broca's area, the motor speech area 44, this sends generally two more important efferents. It gets command from the sensory speech center, the Wernicke's and the angular gyrus, and then it sends the fibers to the motor cortex area 4 of the face region, which is on the lateral side, as we know, the homunculus of the motor part that is responsible for the speech, and this is the main function. And one more fiber to the axonous area, and that signal is in the frontal lobe or the axonous, in the middle frontal gyrus. And the role of the axonous area is it processes the commands from the Broca's area and along with the motor cortex and initiate the movements of the hand. And if any lesion occurs here, then there will be agraphia compared to the dysgraphia. As I told there, here there will be agraphia. So now I just want to tell you that what happens when different parts of these limbs are involved in aphasia and how different aphasias occur. So here we have the different types of aphasia, and I have divided, based on the 19th edition of the Harrison, the different features which helps in differentiating the different types of aphasia: the comprehension, the naming, the repetition, and the fluency. So here we have the Wernicke's area. Here the Wernicke's area, as we know that the comprehension is lost. If Wernicke's area is involved, then the understanding of this written or spoken speech is lost. But when this is lost, he will not be able to name that area properly. Okay, he will not be able to repeat that area properly. But as the Broca's area is good, so the fluency will be correct. There will be no problem. Fluency will be correct. Similarly, the Broca's area, as there is no problem in the Wernicke's area, so no problem in understanding the written or spoken speech. But as he is not fluent, he will not be able to name or repeat that part properly. In case of conduction aphasia, the comprehension is normal and the fluency is normal. Why? Because both the Broca's area and the Wernicke's area are normal. So they are the comprehension and fluency are normal, but repetition and naming is abolished because the conduction pathway, as I told here, the arcuate fasciculus, is disturbed. Now anomic aphasia, here the person can't name properly. Now this is thought to be due to lesion in the angular gyrus, which I told earlier. This area stores image, creates idea and thoughts, and if this hampers, then he won't be able to name also properly. Though he get the visual impulses properly, but he will not be able to create those thoughts, and it is thought to be involved in the anomic aphasia. Still no proper textbook explains it properly. And the Wernicke's and Broca's area is normal, so repetition, there is no problem in the conduction part, so only the naming part is involved here. And in isolation aphasia, we have the repetition remains normal, but the Wernicke's and the Broca's area are involved here. In transcortical somatic and transcortical motor aphasia, here I want to describe that the transcortical sensory, the involvement of the posterior part of the cortical fibers is due to, it means that the loss of fiber connection gradually, the afferent to the Wernicke's area generally, and sometimes the Wernicke's area are also affected, but most of the time it is the afferent fibers to the Wernicke's, and as a result the Wernicke's don't not able to continue to comprehend the written or spoken speech, and as a result it is not able to comprehend the written or spoken speech, so loss, and can't be able to comprehend, so the afferent fibers are lost, so the fibers coming to the Wernicke's might be anywhere is lost, so there may be any kind of problem in the naming also, but there is no problem in the repetition, as there is no problem in the conduction path, and there is no problem in the Broca's, so fluency is normal. And the opposite happens in the transcortical motor. Here the efferent part of the Broca's is hampered, so the comprehension part is no problem because there is normal afferent to the Broca's, no problem in the fasciculus, no problem in the one is no problem in the afferents, so no problem in the repetition also. But as the efferent are gone, I mean the efferent to the Broca's area are gone, the efferent, this part, the Broca's area are gone, so the person will not be able to send impulses for vocal speech, for writing, and as a result there will be problem in fluency and naming due to the vocal part. So I think I have made clear that why this all types of aphasia happens, and you might have liked the video, then you might share some views, and if you think that I missed some point that you might, then you might share your comments. Thank you.